What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from BucsGameday.com. We're here live on a wonderful, beautiful Wednesday here down in Tampa Bay. This is a new episode of Here the Cannons. We've got a special one, too, as well. We'll get to that in just a minute. But we've got a handful of things to talk about. The NFL Combine has wrapped up officially, and there is a lot regarding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans, potential targets. We'll talk some Trey Hendrickson in here as well. Of course, too, the latest on Maxx Crosby and a handful of other free agents that we will all four of us on here will discuss on who the Bucs should go after and would be good fits in Tampa Bay, along with a handful of other things in here as well. Some potential cuts, some restricted free agency. There's a lot of stuff happening regarding the Bucs after the NFL Combine week. But with me this afternoon is River Wells, our lead editor at BucsGameday.com. Our veteran writer Caleb Skinner is down there in the bottom right. And up here, our new writer at Bucs Game Day, James Hill. A lot of you already know him here on YouTube. A lot of you have already probably subscribed to him. But Mr. Bucs Nation, James, welcome to Bucs Game Day. Welcome to Hear the Cannons. We're happy to have you, man.
I'm happy to be here, guys. We obviously have a lot to talk about regarding free agency literally being 3 days away. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a blast. Happy to be here. I'm happy to bring over a few people from my community over to the Bucs Game Day crew, and I think it's going to be a blast, man. So very, very happy to be here.
Caleb, how we feeling? What do we got? You guys can let loose.
I didn't know you were tossing over.
Let it loose, baby.
Cool. Hopefully just had our last snow, so I'm going to give you guys my weekly snow update here in Boston. But hopefully we're going to be done with that soon. Everything's starting to melt. Getting to the springtime and I can start wearing shorts again. But other than that, man, I'm excited. A lot of stuff to break down. Buccaneers going to be pretty active, it seems like, or at least being rumored to be pretty active this offseason. Legal tampering period here in less than a week. So things are starting to heat up. Starting to get Shefty noties out the bunghole here on X, formerly known as Twitter. So just keeping up with it, trying to keep up with it. Attempting to diagnose what's all happening, especially with the new news about Trey Hendrickson. So excited to talk about that with you guys.
Yeah, is it my turn?
It's your turn now, baby. You wanted to wait till last. You just wanted to be the grand finale, huh?
For sure. Free agency's here. Excited. I turned 27 today, so that's
happy birthday, man.
There we go.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to River. Just blasted us with that right there.
I did, yes. March 4th.
But yeah, that is any indication. All right.
I did, actually. If you recall, I said I had a birthday dinner. So you guys got to keep up on that.
You didn't specify it was your birthday.
It could be anybody's birthday, but it turns out it's mine. So
he doesn't want all the light on him.
Yeah. No, it will be interesting, especially given Jason Light's tendencies since the Tom Brady era ended in Tampa Bay. Given that, how active the Bucs will be in free agency and whether or not they try and make any trades or do anything like that, it's going to be the big story, I think, this year, particularly with kind of how I think everyone's in the hot seat in Tampa Bay, really. So we'll see how that goes.
Guys, if you're still here and you're just now joining too, make sure if you're in the comments, throw a comment in, throw in a topic, or if you have any questions, anything regarding, going back to the NFL Combine or some of the Mike Evans stuff. We're going to talk some Trey Hendrickson as well. Free agency is going to be a big topic for us the next few weeks, as we've spoke on. So throw it in the comments over there on the side, and we will for sure bring it up here on the screen. But I say we go ahead and get started. So I thought we'd begin with Mike Evans because that is the team. That is the Bucs. That's the Bucs community. Everybody's wondering what is happening with Mike Evans. So there was a handful of things that happened last week. We'll start off with his agent, Derek Gilmore. He told NFL Network, and I believe also to Pewter Report here in Tampa, that his client was going to be evaluating all 32 teams. And this would be a pretty big business decision for him, not an emotional one like it's been prior. So we kind of knew this was sort of coming here going into this like free agency. Once we heard that, that he was going to be testing free agency, then we knew, okay, yeah, this is probably on the business side of things for sure. But then as the week went on, there was a lot of like cleaning up what was originally said. Because like I said, there was 32 teams, we're going to look at all 32. Then it started to trim down to where Mike Evans had some specific things. This is coming from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, saying that he's got 4 things that he's looking for his next team, whoever that might be. He said he wants an elite quarterback. He wants a quarterback that he can trust, a mature one, a well-experienced one there. And then also, too, he wants to go play for a Super Bowl contender. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. No shocker there. And then also, too, he wants a top-shelf coordinator, and then he also wants to have high volume in touches. Let's just stop right there, gentlemen, and I'll open up the floor to you guys. What do you make of it from immediately, from the beginning, 32 teams, and going to evaluate all those, and then, whoa. No. Here's the specifics of actually what we want. So that obviously is going to trim down a hefty load of those 32. I'll let River, you go first.
Yeah, I don't know if all 32 teams were really on the table. I don't think he's going to be, heading to Nashville to play with the Titans or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, teams like Buffalo, you definitely want to think about teams where he would be a number 1 wide receiver, teams where his skill set, big X wide receiver who can get contested 50-50 balls, a better route runner than I think people give him credit for as well. So definitely would be a big impact player. He showed that he can still produce. I mean, last year he came back from his collarbone injury, immediately put up over 100 receiving yards against the Atlanta Falcons. So definitely still a player getting up there in age, and teams have to think about that and how long he wants to play. If he was considering retirement at the end of this year, what type of contract would he sign? How would that affect kind of the overall contract going forward? I've made my thoughts on kind of the Bucs and Mike Evans clear, but I'll reiterate it before I pass the buck. I think if the Bucs want to really contend and fix every hole they have, they've got inside linebacker needs a lot of work. They need a premier edge rusher. They could probably use a cornerback if Jamel Dean's going to go in free agency. They need depth in the defensive line. They need probably a tight end, maybe. They could use a supplementary running back for Bucky Irving. There's so many holes on this team to fix. If you want to fix all of them in an attempt to compete and contend, I think you do have to let Mike Evans go. He would probably command a pretty decent price, but at the same time, my flip side thing is with Todd Bowles here another year, I don't foresee them fixing every hole they have on this roster. Why not give him a 1-year deal and let him play with Tampa Bay as a hometown guy, or I guess for the Bucs, not like Texas, but Tampa Bay guy, been here his whole career, beloved by fans. Why not give him that contract and just let him ride it out? And then if Light's gone, if Bowles is gone, if everything blows up next year, then you don't owe him anything else at that point. So we'll see what they do. We'll see how good they think that they can be next year, whether they think that they're rebuilding or reloading, or whether they think they'll be able to address every hole in need. But I think there's a lot of teams that'll be interested. And I think from a monetary standpoint, I think all of them will probably be able to outbid Tampa Bay's wishes. So I think a lot of it is in Mike Evans' court.
Yeah, I'm been a big proponent of, the Buccaneers don't need Mike Evans, but he's more of a want. It's kind of still where it is. I mean, new reports coming out even today that he's kind of going to demand a contract, around 20 million or so. So how that fits, not sure. It's pretty expensive, especially after giving up 22 million AAV last year to Chris Godwin. But that's kind of what he's going to be looking at. And there's some new teams that have been reported that have kind of entered the mix here outside of like the Bills, the Patriots, Chiefs, the Chargers, the Giants, and even the Washington Commanders are starting to, hear their names rumored around potential fits for Mike Evans. And some of those don't necessarily hit all 4 of the criteria that Derek Gilmore put out there for Mike. But that's kind of the same with the Bucs too, right? Like, I think ultimately when you look at the 4 pieces of that criteria, that the Buccaneers only really fill 2 right now. Obviously, he believes in Baker Mayfield. He's talked about how much he loves playing with him. He does have a above average offensive coordinator now in Zach Robinson, so that's an elevation last year off of Josh Grizzard. Excuse me. So the real 2 that stand out as ones that the Buccaneers don't necessarily fit is a Super Bowl chance. Another Lombardi.
I would probably agree. Yeah.
That's kind of hard to imagine right now. So you're going to need assurances. Mike's going to need assurances that the Buccaneers are going to do what needs to be done to be able to push themselves over that line, over that hump, if you will. And then the biggest problem, in my opinion, is the high volume targets. This is kind of where you're in that want, don't need territory. in my opinion, because you do have so many mouths to feed. You look on the outside, in particular at the wide receiver group, Tez Johnson, even being mentioned in there with guys like Jalen McMillan, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka. That's already a lot of mouths to feed, right? And then depending on if you have Sterling Shepard, who's kind of been that, soft guy who can sit down and help Baker Mayfield out when he gets into a pinch.
Break glass in case of emergency, and they're always breaking the glass.
Yeah. Right. It's insane. The amount of talent, the amount of production that the Buccaneers do have at that position. Yeah. So being able to feed all those guys, and then you add in the fact that Bucky Irving is probably going to demand some touches, especially in the passing game. And depending on who fills out that running back room, they could also do that, because you saw Rachaad White get some of those touches, especially in the passing game or the past 3 or 4 years or so. So it's going to be a lot of mouths to feed in that Tampa Bay offense. And that definitely does not scream high volume targets for Mike Evans, no matter if he's as close with Baker and Zach, is trying to feed him the ball as much as possible. That's kind of tough, but it's interesting. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm not sure that he fits into $20 million for the Bucs, so he could end up elsewhere. But as much as we would hate to see him leave and not be in that red and pewter, it's definitely a possibility at this point, because as River had mentioned, there could be other areas the Buccaneers could look and be like, we need to get better here to be able to contend, and that doesn't fit with Mike Evans being able to cost us $20 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with what you guys were saying here. I think the harsh business side of it, right? Whenever we take a look at what makes the most sense, yes, it would make the most sense, business decision wise, to be like, hey, Mike, go join a Buffalo Bills or something. We're going to take that money and spend it on edge rusher and inside linebacker and stuff like that. Right. I still personally think he will be back with the Buccaneers.
I'm leaning that way as well.
Yeah. But I'm not as confident about it as I have been in past years.
Yeah.
This whole saga, this whole situation that's been developing over the past couple of weeks feels so weird to me too. With the whole you see the reports coming out first of hey, Mike wants more touches, more targets, and it's okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but kind of weird, that Mike's, that it's that outspoken about it. And then I was kind of done at the bullet point list where it's here's the 4 points that Mike
Chat GPT style, what does every wide receiver want? Yeah. So that's just kind of the craziest thing. It is strange. It is strange.
It is strange. I think we lost James there just for a second. But yeah, the list is really you did I'm not saying he did, but it's the agent went in and said, "Hey,
it's definitely an agent thing." I mean, that again, it's every wide receiver wants that type of thing, right?
And one thing too, and I'll wait till he gets back in here. But let me add. There we go.
That's quite
now. There goes James, and then wait. There we go.
It's quite the face.
There we go.
Thank you.
I'll wait till he gets back. Once he's back connected, then I don't want to have him have that face there for 5 minutes until he gets the internet back. Yeah, he's
in the reaction image. Yeah,
he was not a fan of those bullet points. And the one thing. I think I was well, why aren't we having also a bullet point of maybe that defense improving? Because he was pissed off leaving that Atlanta Falcons game. I don't think I could take that bullet point list seriously without saying.
Well, everybody wants all that. Everybody wants an elite quarterback, a chance to win the Super Bowl, and eye-volume targets. Yeah, right. But there are teams that can offer him all of those things. And when it comes down to the agent game, people really underestimate just how big of a deal it is to take your family or take what you have in a city and go somewhere else. Chris Godwin had a lot of money on the table from the Patriots that he left off to rejoin the Bucs. I do sometimes wonder how he feels about that occasionally. But he didn't want to take his entire life in Tampa Bay and move it to New England, right? A lot of players don't want to do that. And so if Mike wants the money that he wants to surpass a Devontae Adams type deal, there are teams that will offer him that, and the Bucs shouldn't, quite frankly. But if he's willing to work with the team and he wants to come back and he wants to be a Buc for life, like you said he did, right? And honestly, I wouldn't blame him if he didn't want to, guys. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to go somewhere else. I think that's totally fine. But if he wants to stay, they'll make that happen, and he'll still get paid, probably still too much. But it's going to be up to him on how much money he wants. It's going to be up to him on how really badly does he want to win a Super Bowl. Because if he does, there are other teams that he should be going to. I think quite straight up, point blank, right? So, but if he wants to stay in Tampa Bay and he wants to, still be here, and he's got a lot of fondness for the team, and the organization, they've been really good to him, and yada yada. Those things matter. Those things matter.
See, I don't fully believe that he wants to have the high volume of touches. Of course, he wants to reach and get 1,000 yards again. He wants to get back on track with that. A freak accident last year stopped that from happening. But
the hamstring thing is a little lingering.
That always continues, but he still always does find a way to reach those 1,000 yards. But the thing is, if you go back to that Super Bowl run, he had a lot of also big-time weapons on that team. A lot of guys were getting touches. It was Mike Evans. You had Rob Gronkowski, an all-pro Hall of Fame tight end there. You had Antonio Brown in there as well, and you had a handful of other guys too. And Leonard Fournette getting the ball in his hands. Like there was a lot there. So I don't I don't get the whole. I think the biggest thing they've already got. I mean, the biggest thing is Super Bowl contender, and I don't think he's going to go out and call out his coach because his head coach is the defensive coordinator for the Bucs. But if you're going to list some things, of course, what it should be a mixture of, hey, I want to see them pursue and do a big job or go big in free agency to fix the pass rush because that has always limited this defense. It feels like, and I want to see the defense play improve, but he can't really say that and, call out the head coach and whatever on that.
He can say that internally. And I'm sure, I bet you he does.
I mean, we saw it. We saw it in the tunnel. Absolutely.
Yeah, I bet he does. So,
yeah. He was ticked off, and he's playing at a high level. He came back and was dialed in, and, I think the newest report is that he's in the best shape right now going into this 2026 season. We saw him in training camp. That was one of the first things I pointed to you guys was, hey, Mike Evans looks different this offseason. And, I tried asking him going into camp, and he said, this is the same shit, nothing new for me. But you could tell he really dialed in, and I think it was to hopefully improve and be able to withstand that hamstring injury woe that he always deals with. But he was also lining up on the field, man. He was the best wide receiver for consecutive days all throughout. Emeka Egbuka would have his flashes because he was the rookie in the first rounder, and things were clicking there early for Baker, but it was Mike Evans on a consistent basis. So he's still playing at a high caliber level, but it's really going to come down to it's going to get interesting here. I mean, stuff is starting to break as we speak, but the Bucs are going to have to go and find a pass rusher. They've got to do a better job at the linebacker position. I think I do have James back in here now. Boom, we're back. We didn't want to leave you. Your screen was stuck, and it was at a wow with the mouth open.
It is happened before. Won't be the first time. Won't be the last time.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll bring this up to you, James, to bring you back on here. But this is from one of our listeners here on YouTube, maybe one of yours too as well, and saying Mike would be a tough loss, but not an impossible hurdle to overcome. Hope he stays, but...
Yeah, that kind of why everybody thought.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Are we here?
Yeah,
no, I'm
back.
here.
We're back.
Okay, we're fine. Everything's fine.
Is it Spectrum?
Golly.
Spectrum,
Yeah.
What are you doing down here?
Spectrum's not.
I'm rocking with that Frontier, baby.
Listen, it's why they drafted Emeka Egbuka in round 1, right?
Yeah.
Like part of the reason, like re-signing Chris Godwin, having Jalen McMillan, having so much investment in that wide receiver room. That's kind of why, if they do lose Mike Evans, it makes that loss a little bit more manageable, I would say. Right. Because, you have all those guys that are there who can step up and stuff like that. Like, obviously, would Mike Evans still be missed? Yes, absolutely. Not saying that at all. But, it is not nearly as bad as it could be in regards to losing him. Like, they still have plenty of options in that wide receiver room. And I agree where it's like, yeah, you hope he stays, right? Like, just as like if for somebody who's a fan of guys playing their whole careers in certain places, like that's obviously a good story and stuff. But if he does leave, they still have a lot of good and capable receivers that they can lean on.
For sure. They probably have to find that X archetype and that big bodied frame that they can go, hit the go ball soon, the pass catches, because that's probably the one thing they don't really have. But there are guys to find in free agency
Yeah.
And the rest of the talent kind of makes up for that, I think, for sure. Guys like Ibuka and Godwin and those type of, seam finding slot space finders, that McMillan as well. And McMillan came back and was excellent.
I was going to say,
let
people
Tez stretch the field too. Tez can stretch the field, so that's also
Jalen McMillan has slept. Jalen McMillan has slept on, man. I mean, he came back and he was injury.
Very good. So
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. That's where Jason Light and this staff have to look at it and be like, man, I mean, we are absolutely loaded at the wide receiver position. Mike Evans is certainly icing on the cake, and yes, he's a major threat in the red zone and what you want to do there offensively. But, you do feel confident more in what Zach Robinson is going to bring you with experience there and a little bit of the ties there. And his best friend is Liam Cohen. Like, Liam knew how to work with all of these weapons. And that was not easy for Josh Grizzard to do. He was able to do it early on, but once defensive coordinators started to figure some things out, also with injuries didn't help. But still, sometimes whenever, obviously, once a lot of those targets, a lot of those weapons came back later in the season from injury, Grizzard still did not know how to utilize them in the best way, shape, or form. And we've heard from Mike Evans give some really high praise to Drake London. It was last season in the offseason, and he talked with Greg Allman down here of Fox Sports and gave an interview there. And Mike Evans named Drake London as one of his favorite wide receivers. Guess who was coaching Drake London? That was Zach Robinson in Atlanta. So I think the Bucs are in a really good spot here. Absolutely. For the things on the field and what they want to do, maybe not defensively, but offensively, absolutely 100%. But money is money. And are the Bucs going to spend that much money? That's going to be the major question mark as we move forward with all this. Well, let's keep going here, gentlemen. We got to talk about some pass rush because, God almighty,
we do.
The Bucs do need it quite a bit. Now, River, you put out an article, I believe it was yesterday, but we've had a handful of things happening. There's some potential guys at linebacker, pass rush. Now, of course, today with Trey Hendrickson. Is not going to be franchise tagged and who will be a restricted free agent. He's been wanting to get out of Cincinnati for quite a while, but was the 2024 sack leader. Really impressive pass rusher in the league. And there was what was this from? This was from earlier, I believe. Well, this was on Thursday, and we completely missed this. So
I think it was on Pardon My Take when they had Adam Schefter on last week.
That's right. Exactly. So, yeah, I believe Stroud was able to get the tweet here, and this is what Adam Schefter had to say about Trey Hendrickson, saying, I think that he would love to be in Tampa. I think he would love to be in Tampa. He lives in Ponte Verde. I don't think the Jaguars have the requisite cap room for him. Tampa would be a great fit. I think in a perfect world, Trey would like to stay in Florida, no state income tax, but he's also open to going to the best possible situation. If Trey has a pick, I think he'd like to end up with the Bucs, but we'll have to see how it works out that way. First, number one, how did we miss this? How did this not come out? I'm in shock because everybody knows as a publicist, we're all searching for content hourly, literally, in this day and age. But gentlemen, just open up the floor. I'll begin with you, James. Thoughts on this one with Trey Hendrickson? Because I think this is, of course, a name to watch for the Bucs in pass rush free agency.
Yeah, I mean, this has been, a name that everybody, at least in the Bucs fan base, have been clamoring for a couple of years now, right? In terms of like trading for him or wanting to get him available. The Bengals held on to him as long as they possibly could, right? As they are ones to do. And now he's finally going to be available. To me, the positive, well, first off, regarding the quotes and stuff, like, yeah, this came from Hendrickson's camp and stuff like that, I believe, right? And obviously, that is a thing of like, hey, Trey Hendrickson would love to end up in Tampa. And it's like, well, yeah, it takes two to tango. So we'll see if the Bucs would have interest in Hendrickson. I think they probably would, right? Because we all know how dire of a need that the Bucs have at edge rusher. It's a need they've had for multiple years now, right? So I could see a scenario where there is mutual interest there. It is going to cost a pretty penny to get a Trey Hendrickson. And there is part of me that is like, man, it just feels like it's a couple years too late, Like he's 31 years old.
Is. Yeah.
Like his back kind of cooked him this past year. How is he going to be coming off of that? Like, I still think he's going to be like solid, but again, it's this scenario where it's just like, man, dude, if this was like 3 years ago, you'd feel a lot better about it. But right now, it's just like, yeah, like I think it would be a fine move. But also, given the Hassan Reddick situation that happened this past offseason, like it is a little bit like buyer beware with these types of guys now.
Yeah.
And you know, Jason Light's probably thinking that same thing, where he's like, I just got burned, you know, signing a guy on a 1-year deal who had a good history, had a down year, and then, you know, was not very good for us. Would this happen again? So I don't know. I still think there is going to be interest there, but I do wonder if there will be some caution from the Bucs regarding bringing in a guy like Hendrickson because of that back injury that happened, because of the age factor. And maybe they'll look at some younger pass rushers there in the open market.
Yeah, I agree with everything that James is saying. Big on the Reddick take. I feel the same way. It's kind of the territory that you're entering here when you're looking at it. Obviously, having a down year is not great after you led the league in sacks, but that could have been for a multitude of factors. And I mean, it would make sense. I mean, obviously having a house in Ponte Vedra is huge. No state income tax. I believe he went to FAU. And that's where he played his collegiate ball. So that's another draw. He's probably got plenty of connections down here as well, which is great news for Tampa Bay. Now, are you going to be willing to pay up in that 25? I mean, how much are you going to pay this guy? Like $25 million?
25 is about, I think, the going rate, which for a 31-year-old would be
so
interesting.
You're really reaching your bag if you don't, you know, if you're going to go out and get this guy, I would love it. Don't get me wrong. Because obviously we need a pass rusher. We need somebody who can get after the quarterback opposite of Yaya Diaby. But going back to the original reports, it's very intriguing that nobody was able to pick up on it to me. Obviously it can be coming from an agent or whatever side possible, but Shefty does have all these different, you know, sources that he is able to pull from. So the way that I look at this is that nobody was able to really push this information out, even though Shefty said it on Thursday, until we were getting closer to the legal tampering period that begins on Monday the 9th. And they want to keep it as hush-hush as possible because conversations might have been had between somebody's side and an organization's side as well during the illegal period of time to be able to have that contact. So that's how I'm looking at it. I know there's multitudes of different ways to look at it, but that's how I'm going to take it. And if I'm right in thinking that, then I believe there's a very big chance that Tampa Bay can land him.
Caleb, we got to get you a board with the red strings, you know, connecting everything.
Like we see in like CSI shows and stuff.
Yeah, that's what we got to get you.
Connect
gotta
everything together.
Lines sometimes, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Trey Hendrickson, River? Because I mean, we've been very, I would say, outspoken on the pass rush, and it's not just been about this year, but in years past. And we
thought a long time,
not that they had something with Reddick there, but you were still taking a risk, and there was not some good things heard about him coming into the Bucs in Tampa Bay. But now it's do or die. You're going to do it, or you are going to have to, you know, restructure everything moving forward.
I have other options. I think I would probably prefer outside of Hendrickson. I think Hendrickson would be pretty expensive given his age, and the injury history might have been a little bit of wanting to get traded last year. But at that same time, if you think of it like that, that's still just the Hassan Reddick situation that you had in New York again, right? And do you want to step back into that? But like you just mentioned, the bottom line is that this pass rush has been really bad. It doesn't seem like Jason Light has been able to really draft and develop edge rushers in-house, which makes me kind of worried if he were to try that again in the first round or something like that. So anything helps. And Hendrickson has prior history of 17.5 sacks, you know, back-to-back before 2025. That it's not for nothing. You don't need to develop him. He's got the moves. We thought that about Hassan Reddick too, though, right? And that didn't work out. So tough to look at it. Money's going to be a big factor. And when it comes to a guy that age and how long he's going to keep playing and how long do you want to sign him for, if it's like a 1-year deal, you're just going to be in the same exact spot next year, right? And what if he's good? Then you're kind of really struggling. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I wouldn't mind Hendrickson. I think he would be that type of fix they're looking for, but I think there are better options who are younger. I saw someone in the comments say our most pass rushers old and beat up. It's usually like a one or the other type thing. Agency, they're either old or beat up. But there are options that aren't like that. And there are also options, man, that are sitting behind other players on a depth chart that it should be the scouting department's job to take a look at, especially when you look at Shaq Barrett, right? I just wrote an article about the 3 best and 3 worst Buccaneers free agent signings the last decade. Barrett was just playing behind Von Miller in Denver. Yeah. And Jason Light and his staff correctly identified that he would be a quality player if given more starting reps. They brought him in Tampa Bay. He broke the sack record. So those type of players I think you should definitely be looking at too. But if you need someone who can get in right now, has the experience, there are better options than Trey Hendrickson.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of some other big names, there was a little bit of Maxx Crosby conversation, and this came from NFL Insider and also to Sports Illustrated, our friends over there. Albert Breer. Say it again.
Spoiler, no Bucs.
Yeah, no Bucs mentioned in here in this list. Now, there's a point here also to make that Albert Breer did point to Mike McDaniel a ton to the Buccaneers before Mike McDaniel eventually went over and said, hey, I'm going to the Chargers.
Right.
And I'm going to go to Herbert. But, Crosby was named or appointed to, or whatever you want to say, linked to Dallas, Chicago, Baltimore, Buffalo, New England, Philadelphia, and the Rams as
the usual suspects.
Yeah.
The Rams just traded a lot of capital for Trent McDuffie before we got on. Quite frankly, I thought a lot of capital for Trent McDuffie. Still a very high-quality player, but they give up like 4 picks.
So Sean McVay fashion.
Right, that might affect their later moves in that area. Yeah.
Which one would be to you guys, just to roundtable this, because we've covered a lot of Maxx Crosby through all of this, and there was also Albert Breer saying that this trade could happen this week. It could happen while we're on here, at least not officially, but some news could break this week that Maxx Crosby would find his next team. But which one out of these teams that he's listed, Dallas, Chicago, Baltimore, Buffalo, New England, Philadelphia, and the LA Rams, seems to be a threat? Or is there another one that we're, not on this list that we need to mention?
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs, I don't think are going to be willing to part with that draft capital. I mean, 2 first is
doesn't seem like a Jason Light sort of
thing. It's an automatic no when you get into that 2 first, in my opinion, when it comes to the Bucs. So it's not going to be an option for them. So we can, kind of start to wean off of the Maxx Crosby talk here shortly. But I mean, the Bears are in negative odds when it comes to the Vegas odds makers to be able to land him at this point. So that's something important to note, that the Bears are heavily invested in shoring up their pass rush, even though they already have a pretty solid one, to just make it even more lethal. So I would say probably somewhere like that, maybe somewhere like Philly or Dallas, somewhere where he can kind of elevate a defense. Not real sure. I mean, he could still stay. There's reports coming out that he's pretty, pissed off at what's Guerrero, Brady's henchman or whatever.
Yeah, Alex Guerrero. Yeah.
How business handlings have been going now that Brady and him are within the front office. So that's an intriguing tidbit. If any team wants to, potentially go there, they're probably gonna have to deal with that side of things too. But Crosby doesn't seem happy, and he definitely wants out. So he's definitely gonna be on the move, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, Jason Light won't even trade a 7th round pick. Okay. Like, let alone 1 first rounder or multiple first.
He'll keep 7th rounders. They'll stay on the team and they'll be inactive on game day. Yeah. It's like,
he'll be like, this guy's great. What do you mean? Yeah. So like, no, I don't believe the Bucs are in any way, shape, or form going to trade for Maxx Crosby. I never count out the Eagles, kind of like what we just saw the Rams do. The Eagles are one of those teams where it's like, once they kind of identify a player and they're like, hey, we're really going to go for it. They go for it. So it wouldn't really surprise me if the Eagles were a team that's like really in that mix. I know obviously a lot of people make that like kind of smoking gun connection between John Spytek and Jason Light, because it's like, oh, Spytek used to work for Jason Light. It's like, yeah, but like Jason Light insanely values his draft picks, So like I saw something recently where Jason Light was like, yeah, it's not like it's not in my DNA or I'm allergic to making trades. I was like, I don't know about that, dude. I don't know. You might want to go see a doctor because get your allergies checked up on, because golly.
Yeah, it doesn't make. It's fun to talk about, and like a lot of people in here are saying, this is from Jay on YouTube saying there's plenty of defensive ends that are available, but we don't need to go all in for Maxx, even though Maxx is the most attractive game changer, and he is absolutely is. He is a game wrecker for you with a big time motor, and also to the mentality that he would bring. The Bucs are in major need of some leadership on that side of the ball. Definitely if they lose Levante David. It's sitting in a different caliber. I mean, we've talked about it on this show with, this happened during the end of the season, but him and Devin White going at it because Devin White wasn't in the right position. Whoa, shocker there, but he was not in the right position. And Maxx Crosby let him know about it. And so that kind of attitude is certainly what you want that, but there might be other guys that can give you that for a cheaper option there. But there's a lot of teams doing a lot of work to try to get Maxx Crosby, and Jason Light, like you all just said, he's not known for doing these type of things. He would have to pull off a stunner for all that. And this is from Disappearing Boy on YouTube saying I wouldn't want to spend all that money on Crosby.
And again, with how many holes that they have, I mean, this team could lose its coach. It could lose its GM. It could be a whole front office shift next year. If you were to sign Maxx Crosby and trade away a marquee player for a big deal, then he's just kind of stuck there after like a whole blow up, and he wouldn't want that, and the Bucs wouldn't want to deal with that either. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially given I just don't think if you added Maxx Crosby in this edge rushing room that they would just win the Super Bowl. I don't think that's the piece putting them.
That's the thing.
Edge.
Yeah, that's not just the one missing thing.
I'm sure Jason Light probably thinks that too. There's inside linebacker. There's
I would hope so. There's
interior defensive line. If Jamel Dean leaves, that opens a whole other can of worms in the secondary, right? Yeah. Depth all around is kind of fairly weak. So there's a lot to do. That's why I'm most curious if the Bucs do this offseason, because there's so much, to me, it feels like, to take care of and try and address. And I don't know how much capital they're going to have to do it. And it would be even less if you brought in Maxx Crosby. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, right after this, but there's some other edge rushers you could trade for, I think, that would be way cheaper, wouldn't take as much capital, and would maybe help fix the problem. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. Let's go to a quick hitter off of YouTube from J-Bomb asking one question off topic. After the combine testing, now you see my point in drafting quarterback Taylon Green on a day 3 or 4th, 5th round pick, which would benefit us life after Baker Mayfield. So he's talking about the Arkansas quarterback, also played for Boise State, was the 2022 Mountain West Freshman of the Year, talented quarterback there. In 2025, he recorded almost 3,500 total yards on offense and had a season high of 151 rushing yards against Arkansas State. So he can use his legs if need be for sure. But y'all's thoughts here on Taylon Green?
He's a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
He is definitely a gamer. Definitely not bad to waste or not. That's the wrong word. Not bad to use a.
Dang, Taylon, don't listen in.
Hope
you're not listening to hear the cannons.
Definitely misspoke. I do like Taylon Green.
All our Arkansas listeners just thanks a lot.
SEC guy, I've seen him play. So I do like Taylon Green. I did not mean to use that. I would say 4th and 5th round picks to be a guy that will like pan out as a starting caliber quarterback is pretty rare. So those late round picks for like life after would not be maybe like the way to look at it. I do think the Bucs are going to need a backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater won't be coming back. I don't think Connor Bazelak would be your long-term answer. I always kind of thought whenever you take a look at backup quarterbacks, you should at least hope they can win like a game out of like 3, or like split a series 2-2. With Teddy, you had no confidence that was going to happen, to the point where Baker Mayfield was presumably, like we're all assuming, kind of, he's never actually come out and said this outright, but we've assumed he played with a ton of injuries.
He did, and he did not want to come out because of, I think, that he did not feel confident that Teddy Bridgewater would be able to do.
And I don't know if the offense did either. So a guy like Taylor Green, or any of those late round guys, it would be worthy to take a shot on in the draft, because you do need a backup quarterback. You could try and develop somebody, but you need to have a guy that you can somewhat rely on if Baker Mayfield gets hurt, which he doesn't come out of games. But that's something to think about, I think. No disrespect to Taylor Green. Completely misspoke.
Or Arkansas.
Love my SEC guys, especially. So
except for Georgia.
You know how that is. Except for Georgia. No one on Georgia, but Arkansas is fine.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm opposed to the Bucs drafting a quarterback. Again, 4th or 5th round seems a little bit too rich for me right now, because again, like what River's been talking about, where it's like that 4th round pick could be a backup defensive lineman or another backup edge rusher, or a backup corner, right? Same thing with the 5th round as well. But I do agree that they should look to get I would say probably 2 quarterbacks in, besides Connor Bazelak, drafting one and then maybe getting one in free agency. Teddy probably going to retire again. Dude, I remember watching Teddy going out there in a freaking hoodie under his pads. I was like, this dude still wants to be retired right now. I was like, what are we doing here, man? And I think they could use a couple of guys just to have some competition back there, right? And whenever we do talk about the post Baker Mayfield era, it's not 100% set in stone that's coming anytime soon, right? That's still very much a wait and see type of situation right now. For all we know, it's you could say oh yeah, the Bucs are moving on from Baker soon, but you could also say, well, he's your next starting quarterback for the next 5 years. Who knows, right? So I agree that getting somebody drafting a quarterback is not opposed to it, but maybe a 6th or 7th rounder as opposed to a 4th or 5th rounder, where you could probably use that depth at other position groups with kind of a mid-tier pick like that.
Yeah, I'll make it short. I agree with what both these guys are saying. I love Taylor Green. After watching the combine, he's a freak of nature when it comes to his athleticism, a gamer, watching his film and everything like that, as previously mentioned. I think it would be a great pick, day 3, that's 6-7, as
there we go. Bang. We got it in. It's going to hit down.
I'm getting older. I got to get him in while I can get him in.
You got to grow up.
But yeah, like James and River have, iterated, you don't need a guy in the middle rounds. You need depth elsewhere. That's what you should do. Bazelak and Taylor Green. I don't know if you definitely want 2 really young quarterbacks backing up Baker Mayfield. So again, back to James's point, you might want to go get a vet back there as well to sure things up. But quarterback definitely not out of the question, and truly do love Taylor Green, unlike River.
Yeah, I can't stand it.
Rivers Taylor Green's #1 hater.
Exactly. I'm always on the socials. As soon as I wake up, I'm tweeting.
Articles coming.
The article's coming.
Why the Bucs should not definitively.
3 reasons.
I liked it, and Green had a great combine too, and I think later rounds be a perfect kind of draft him and develop overall talent like that. So
I'll tell you who's going to be really hands on with this is Chandler Whitmer, the new quarterbacks coach coming in, and that's going to be really intriguing to see, because I think that's going to play a little bit more into the fact of who they are going to go into with either it's NFL draft as we were just talking about, or if that's going to be through the free agency side of things, because this guy has coached a lot of quarterbacks, definitely at the collegiate level. He's coached Trevor Lawrence in college, Fernando Mendoza, as we all know, Heisman winner, Justin Fields too as well. He was a GA over there at Ohio State during that time, and then Justin Herbert in the league, Kirk Cousins, who else in here? Michael Penix Jr. as well, of course, with the Falcons. So There's a lot that is he'll play a big role into, that quarterback room moving forward.
I'm just glad you learned his first name, Logan. That's
dude. I know. I made up for it. That's what we do. We respond. Shout out to Mike Norvell in Florida State. All about respond, and I just responded.
Are they really?
Well, I didn't say FSU was going to respond. I said I responded. I'm doing a better job of responding than FSU football has done in the last 2 years, but we won't get started on that at all. Please don't.
Oh, we can.
No, we already did earlier this week. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We also don't want to talk about those Gators the last couple of years too, as well.
That's fair. That's fair.
At least you moved on from your coach, though, and you get a little bit of excitement in the offseason.
We're a basketball school. It's okay.
That is true. That is true. Well, let's finish this off real quick, and we'll just mix this around with both things. So on the sheet here, we've got some players that the Bucs, at least for you guys, some that you think they should go after and pursue. And also some notes here of, maybe who the Bucs might be moving on from as well. I'll end it off with that, but maybe some names that you guys are keeping a close eye on now that we're starting to see some things pop up. We're going to start getting a really good feel of who and which bowl are going to be available for Todd Bowles. That was pretty good. I got to give that to myself.
There you go. I wrote an article on this. As far as the trade's concerned, I really like Jonathan Bernard in Minnesota. He's apparently going to be up for trade. I think he's a very productive edge rusher. Has a little bit of injury history, but when he plays, high pressure rate, he gets the sacks. He's a finisher, and I think he would be a lot less expensive. He's on a pretty reasonable deal. So if you want to do a trade, like a day 2 or day 3 thing, that would be the way to go. And then as far as linebackers, inside linebackers, you got to get one of those. People will tell you like Devin Bush and Devin Lloyd are like the 2 big ones, basically. But how much they would cost would be something to look at. So maybe a guy like Caden Ellis or like Alex Anzalone will be a more valuable option there. So those would be my immediate free agency picks and my potential trade. But we will see how it shakes out.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are probably going to be regurgitated over and over again by not only us, but everybody who covers the Bucs. Looking at inside linebacker is a huge area where the Bucs are going to need some help, even if...
I think they honestly need 2, by the way. Yeah, right. Regardless of if Levante David stays or not, they need 2.
Exactly. I've been on that same train with you. Pick up one in the draft, pick up one in free agency, right? That's how I've been looking at this whole thing when it comes to inside linebackers. So looking at those guys, Alex Anzalone is kind of, upper edge. You got to note with him too, is that he did lose his C this past season. So that captaincy that he had on the defensive side, that green dot, if you will, on the defensive side of the ball, he did lose it this past season, which not necessarily a knock on his leadership skills or anything, but, seeing that production kind of dip down, they kind of went a new direction there. But Nakobe Dean, real big name that you kind of want to look at here too. The guy over there, the Eagle, is young, still very instinctive off-ball linebacker, can cover sideline to sideline, and would fit very well with Servassier Dennis as long as he's able to take, that next step. Some concerns there with, maybe size, maybe a little bit of his injury history as well. Devin Lloyd, obviously, continuously being linked to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers since he can stay in Florida. Playmaker, again, that has tremendous range across the field, fits into Todd Bowles and what he likes to do. So that's kind of, the inside linebackers that I would target free agency. Edge rushers, a lot of these guys are older, but you can kind of look at, who is it, Owe and Mafe in Seattle.
Seattle. Yep.
It's coming. And then there's Owe too, for the Chargers, that is also out there, kind of a guy that's probably not as much talked about as some of these other guys that the Bucs could go after. So those are kind of guys on the defensive side of the ball that I would want to look at. And then looking at the offense, you really want to pay attention to that running back room. So go ahead and just make it easy. Go grab Tyler Algier from Atlanta, pair him back up with Zach Robinson, and then, you're kind of smooth sailing from there.
Mm-hmm. Dude, my kind of tinfoil hat theory, by the way, is like if they did bring in an Algier, it's like, would he kind of maybe be battling for like a number 1 running back job against Bucky? I don't know. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's
that's feasible.
He's a pretty good pure runner.
Yeah.
I agree with what the guys are saying here. For inside linebacker, Leo Chenal is a guy I wrote about. He's a guy that I think kind of flies under the radar. Did some really good stuff for Kansas City.
That's not a bad pick either.
Yeah, like I think he's definitely a guy who can give you a little bit of everything. Now, I agree with what River and Caleb are saying here, Logan, where, I mean, dude, they need to add minimum 2 inside linebackers.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking top 3 rounds, get an inside linebacker, get a decent fill-in guy in free agency, and roll out. Like, basically, like, if I was to make sure Servassier Dennis is playing as little as possible on defense, because that dude cannot cover to save his life right now.
And I think we can go ahead and rule out Sonny Styles at 15, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No shit.
Someone's going to pick him way too high. Not to say that he's not a monster, because he is, but for positional value, someone's going to draft Styles way up there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And for edge rusher, like, Boye Mafe is a guy that I think could be an interesting blend of youth, upside, stuff like that. Maybe a guy like Bradley Chubb. I don't know. Like, kind of waiting to see on some of those situations. There are a lot of, like, risky older edge rushers out there, right? In this market right now, where it's like, it feels like a lot of Hassan Reddick's running around out there, kind of waiting and seeing. But like, also, I'm kind of of the mindset too, where it's like, hey man, you got to add 2 edge rushers too. Like, it just really rebuild this front 7, because it has been, I'm sure you guys have talked about it a lot here on the channel, but it's been rough. Like, they really need to work on this front 7 and make it a priority this offseason.
They got a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Like they have not done before, So like, I think they recognize that, based on what Jason Light and Todd Bowles have been saying at the NFL Combine, or had said. So like, we'll see. But yeah, they inside linebacker, edge rusher, and even like defensive line, if you want to like take a look at like Sebastian Joseph Day or a Draymond Jones or something. Yeah, those are some guys that I think would be some fits for Tampa.
Yeah.
If you're here with us on YouTube, consider hitting that subscribe button. Got almost about that, well over 75.
Smash that like button too.
Literally, yeah, and smack the like button too as well. If you're new here, or if you haven't yet, consider hitting that subscribe button. We've got content going for you all throughout the offseason, and certainly once we get into a rookie mini camp, we're going to get into some interviews and to the NFL draft. We'll have instant reactions from everything, and definitely, of course, training camp, one of our favorite times of the year, getting you guys instant reactions after every single practice. And like River just said, smack that like button down below. Having a great episode, definitely with James having the time to join us, us on this show. Let's finish it off though real quick. Let's talk cuts, because that is a part of the game, and that's what happens every single year. It's the NFL. This has to happen. So I want to bring up a few names to you guys, and you guys can discuss and bring up a few more if you have any, but a couple here that have been named. Sean Tucker, Christian Izien, Marquise Watts. There was some reports today from Greg Allman commenting on Marquise Watts, specifically saying that expected to be cut, but they would like to have him back with the Bucs. And this happens a lot like Christian Izien. This staff, Todd Bowles specifically loves him as a player because he's so versatile. He can do everything, it feels like. Then you also have Sean Tucker, which we are having a conversation about running back. Caleb brought it up as well, but that's something that this team is going to have to figure out this offseason of what to pair it with Bucky Irving. If Bucky Irving isn't your pure RB1, what do you kind of do there moving forward? But also some other names, too, to keep it on. Anthony Nelson, Josh Hayes, Payne Durham. If there's some more, too, feel free to bring them up. But where do you guys stand with a few of these names that were mentioned, and who else could we be missing that could be on this cut block for the Bucs?
Izzy and Tucker are free agents, aren't they?
Restricted, yes.
So
the Buccaneers will have the option to match whatever.
Price match them.
Price match it.
I want to throw a name out here just to get your guys' opinion on it. Okay, so hear me out. I don't think it's going to happen, but let's say they do bring back Mike Evans. Do they trade Chris Godwin?
It's going to be a big cap hit, I believe.
But given how he played last year and the amount of money they put into him, I feel like there's a decent argument for selling high. I don't think it's going to happen either, but I think there's a decent argument for it.
Because I think I saw, like, they don't free up a ton of money. I think they free up like $5 million or something, but I don't know.
Help. Add that to the stash for Hendrickson, or come on, Crosby.
Yeah, but
Hendrickson's a free agent, so Crosby
true,
would
that's
be
true.
Crosby. Yeah.
continuing with that though, Christian, Sean, they can be matched. The Buccaneers have already made
Do you
it
think
known.
they will though?
The Buccaneers apparently with new reports with Christian Izien is they want him back, but the problem with that is they don't
Didn't sound like
necessarily
Izzy wanted to be
they
back.
don't want him back at $3.5 million, right? Which
Right.
Izien will probably get elsewhere because of how good he has been ever since becoming undrafted and landing with the Buccaneers and immediately jumping into a starting role. A great special teams guy, and then a guy who has excelled and come up big in the clutch with key turnovers at moments as well, and been able to play safety, nickel, whatever you really need him to, is extremely versatile. So it's very likely that he won't be back because his services will be, asked of from other teams to be able to fill in. Sean Tucker, maybe a little bit better here. You can still keep him as RB3 and see what happens there, but the Bucs will not tender Marquise Watts, so he will become an unrestricted free agent here this upcoming week. So there's that. And, Logan, you had mentioned Payne Thurham, another one. It would be really small savings there if you were to cut him, but again, savings all the way. Vita Vea has been a name mentioned here, but a restructure is most likely the course of action when it comes to his contract. But a guy that you didn't mention that I know Buccaneers fans would probably be pretty happy with, punter Riley Dixon, just did not play out the way that we had wanted it to last season. And so I think he could find himself very likely on the way out.
Yeah, because he's a team option, right? And you could just feasibly not use it. So, yeah.
By the way, Sean Tucker fans are punching the air right now, Caleb, for you saying he's a running back 3 and not a 2.
He is a running back 3.
I guess he won't. I guess they're not.
The thing about Tucker is that Tucker is a pure speed back, and he's done some great work there. But when it comes to the archetypes, you need to compliment a guy like Bucky Irving. I don't really know the value there. So I think they need a power back. They need a guy who on 3rd and 3 can get 3 yards and spell Irving for the more physical part of it. They tried to use Tucker like that for some reason last year, and it didn't work out. So depending on how much that would cost, I don't know if that would be the way to go.
Yeah, and needless to say, the Sean Tucker stands out there aren't necessarily pleased.
Hashtag.
Oh,
44s. Yeah.
There we go. That was a good one. Good job, Caleb. Good job.
Got them coming all day, boys.
Yep. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll get them all day long. This is coming from J-Bomb asking. It's a good question. What free agent tight ends would you predict the Bucs to go after or be interested in?
This is a very good question. If they were to go in free agency, how much would they want to spend on a tight end? Because I think Cade Otton, we've talked about this. Cade Otton is reliable, but he's entirely unspectacular, in my opinion. So if you want to do, it's like a level of, do you want to do better than that? Well, that's going to cost a lot of money. And do you want to let him go? Well, you might get someone worse. So they're in a really weird spot with that. But yeah, guys like Njoku and Goddard would probably cost a lot of money. And then there's a lot of older tight ends on this list here for sure. I don't know if I love the tight end free agency class right now. So what do you guys think?
I could see them going for like a Tyler Higbee just because he has that familiarity with Zach Robinson. But then also they're like, hey, also we're going to draft a tight end in round 2.
You should, because he's still 33. So yeah.
Well, and honestly, this is going to sound mean maybe, but what does Cade Otton give you that's any different than what a Tyler Higbee could give you?
No, I agree. I 100% agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also I think Cade's going to be I don't think Cade's going to be back. He's one of those guys where it's he goes into free agency and he just gets a bag and everybody's all the Bucs fans are he got a bag?
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Now there's a lot of the Commanders. We cover the Commanders at Commanders Game Day. Caleb, you know this. We put out a good amount of pieces where,
out money too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, about Cade Otton and the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who he's on the field a lot. I just don't think when it comes to making,
he's out there.
He is elevating an offense with both his blocking and his receiving. I mean, they always say he's doing the dirty work, but I just think you could get a lot more out of that position probably than you get with Cade Otton.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think a lot of these guys right now, kind of elevate over what
Right.
Cade Otton is able to do. I'd be inclined to even say like Cade is most likely coming back because of just the little amount that's really out there. But if you are looking for an elevation of sorts when it comes to production at the position, you can look at a David Njoku. Him and Baker Mayfield kind of had that little overlapping in Cleveland just for a brief period of time. And then you also, I don't know. I'm kind of like 50-50 on Isaiah Likely. I love him for certain things, but I don't like him for a lot of other things as well. But if you're really looking to elevate a little bit over Cade Otton, those are two names to look at. But other than that, I think it just might be a smart move to go ahead and sign Cade to like a 2-year deal and then re-examine the position. As much of a freak as Kenyon Sadiq is,
drafting tight ends in the first.
It's just so hard, right?
Idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult with the other needs that you have to go ahead and pull a trigger on a guy like that in the first round. So yeah, I think at this point, go ahead, get Cade, nice little 2-year deal worth, probably right around that. Maybe you can even get him a little bit cheaper if necessary. But at this point, I think probably the safest bet is just to go ahead and bring him back as long as no other teams just offer him a bag for no reason.
There's a question here from Sean asking, if Mike leaves, do you think they might take Kenyon at pick 15?
Yeah, we were just talking about that. That would be tough. That would be tough. Yeah.
I would be so done. I'd be like, you got to be kidding me.
That would be tough. That's bad positional value to start, and especially when it comes to need value. I mean, it's not even in the question. So that would be a bit rough.
I've got a question for you guys though. Kind of going back over the defensive side of the ball. What are your thoughts on what the team should do with Logan Hall?
I thought for a second you were going to talk about me. I was like, I don't know, man. I'm not under contract. What's happening?
We should get rid of Logan.
I'm not even training right now. I don't got anything going on, man.
Because he had a pretty good season. So
I'm a little bit lower, I think, than a lot of people are on Logan Hall personally. I think the value that you could get from him is fairly easily replaceable, especially because people have mentioned he would be a decent sort of depth piece for the team, but I still think you could maybe do better than that. So if it's a really small contract on a really small deal to kind of fill in his depth for somebody who knows the system, I wouldn't mind it, but like that's too much.
River's like vet minimum, or he's not coming back.
I'm not as big of a
I'm not the biggest Logan Hall guy in the world, but now would I bring back Logan Hall? Probably not. And I don't mean this as super disrespectful, but he does feel like kind of just a guy. I feel like you can get that same level of production from a lot of defensive linemen around the league. Now, do I feel like the Bucs are going to be interested in bringing him back? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be for $8 million per year. If it comes out where it's like, hey, yeah, 3 years, $24 million for Logan Hall, I'll be like, okay, all right, guys, cool, sick, But yeah, like it's an interesting conversation. That's one of those things too, where it's like, do you just kind of want to revamp that position, kind of let Logan Hall and Greg Gaines hit free agency and just say, okay, we're going to get a new starter. We're going to get another backup in here. Elijah Roberts is going to play more and kind of go from there.
Right.
The staff really liked, and I liked what I saw from Elijah Roberts last year. He got put into a position where he practically took over.
He largely siphoned Logan Hall's snaps.
Yeah.
So,
what a great word.
There you go.
Siphon.
Great stuff.
Siphoned
it away.
It's the word of the day.
It's the word of the day.
Yeah, siphoned it away.
It's on the calendar.
Yeah, Elijah really did go in and take over. And, one thing which would be really nice if Elijah Cansey can stay fully healthy for a season. That would really make things interesting, wouldn't it?
That's why I think the Bucs need to hedge their bets too on like bringing in a couple of guys, because it's like you can't rely on Elijah Cansey being healthy.
Clearly.
Under any circumstances. I mean, my dude has been hurt every single year he's been in the league so far. So that's why it's like, okay, bring in a couple of guys. And like, I think everything that we're saying right throughout this whole show, like they know, right? Like they know these things. It's just a matter of how much they want to invest and what they can do in a full off season.
Right.
I mean, like, and maybe that does lead them to come back and be like, hey, we are going to bring back Hall on like a 1 year, $5 million deal or something, because like, you know what River was saying, where it's like, you know what, it's the guy we know.
He knows the system. He knows
yeah,
the
like
defense,
we need him just in case Kalijah Kancey gets hurt again, which is like pretty likely. And like at worst, he's a depth guy who knows Todd Bowles' system. So yeah, it's possible.
Well, it's like, it reminds me of, who was the guy that was here forever?
And Will Golston.
Yeah, that's kind of what this situation kind of reminds me of, is like, obviously Todd Bowles loves Logan Hall and what he's able to do. So are they going to let him go? And, you know, that's kind of what I keep battling with when it comes to it.
Right. Yeah. We'll finish off with just one more. This is a quick, easy one, I feel like, from everyone here. Would Light trade up or trade down in the draft? What's the odds for trading up?
He's done it before, but is there a target he would really want above 15? I don't know if that's the case. So my immediate guess would be no. But again, if you can go way up and like get like Sonny Styles, that's really bad positional value for that high. And you can, exactly.
Trade up.
He's a big draft riser, baby.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
like as far as positional value goes and like team need, like I mean, edge rusher's right there, right? Corner, if you didn't want to get a corner, that's right there waiting for you. So I would say for what the Bucs need, probably not. But he's done it before. He's done it before.
I think it's more likely he trades down.
Yeah.
Jason Light loves draft picks. He's traded down a lot over his time as GM. You know, and like this is a pretty deep class in the sense of like the stuff that the Bucs need is pretty deep. Like it especially edge rusher, you know, a little bit at inside linebacker, but especially edge rusher. So like if there is some type of receiver on the board, or maybe somebody really convinces themselves that like a Ty Simpson or something is that dude at quarterback, like maybe he trades down. Like it's much more likely he would trade down than trade up, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he would trade up. I think an area where you could possibly see him doing that is in the second round with a guy like a CJ Allen. If you can trade up, because you know that CJ Allen has started to rise up draft boards. If you want to trade up a little bit in round 2 and be able to get him, that's an inside linebacker that you could utilize. He's been highly spoke of from his time at Georgia, pretty much commanding that defense and calling the plays by himself for the most part. That's the type of guy that Todd Bowles likes, and that Todd Bowles really needs to be able to command, you know, a defense, especially if like Levante David decides to hang them up.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think this was an incredible show. This was a lot of stuff that we had to go in and cover. We have a lot more topics to talk about. We didn't really hit a whole ton on Levante David as much. We'll do that in the next episode too, because he's still trying to figure out what he wants to do. And there's not a lot of time left, and they do need to get an answer soon, or that answer will just be made by whatever the Bucs do, and what is it going to be, free agency or the NFL draft? But that answer has got to be coming.
Do you have breaking news for us?
Very minor.
We got a minor breaking news. All right,
Connor
ding,
ding. Re-signed by the Bucs. Procedural move. Connor Bazelak.
Oh, okay.
Exclusive rights free agent.
Logan's like, who? I've never heard of him.
No. I didn't hear the name. I didn't hear the name. I was probably the only reporter. Not gonna say my only reporter, but me and River did interview.
We did talk to him. Yeah.
My
cousin was actually on a team with him at Bowling Green, so
there you go.
We spoke with him, but I literally had to ask him, how hard are these headbutts that Baker Mayfield gives him in the pregame warmups, because he gave him a nasty one. Then like Baker looks at Teddy and he's like, there's a little tap for you. But Connor Bazelak, bang, right on your head.
Yeah.
Concussion.
Never been a fan of the headbutts for any team or any player doing it. Never been a fan.
Well,
but
if you're on Baker's team, you're going to get him.
That's like a procedural move we kind of expected to bring him back on. So he'll be there. But like you mentioned, James, I think they might want to go out and get a more established sort of veteran quarterback.
Well, we appreciate all of you guys on here. If you're new, like I said, or have not yet, I highly suggest hitting that subscribe button. We're now over 32 100 there. And as you can see that chart, we've been seeing some nice growth in the last month, but we're not stopping, and we got a lot more topics to talk about. If there's any kind of breaking news that happens over the week or even the weekend, we'll pop open the phone and come on here and give our thoughts on it as well. But highly suggest you hitting that subscribe button. And two, when we do go live for those breaking news, make sure that you have that bell ticked off right there next to the subscribe button, because it will give you notification when we do go live on there. And thank you a ton to James, our new writer at BucsGameday, for joining us. Make sure you guys go check out some of his content too at BucsGameday. Up there goes another subscriber, up to 3,209. So shout out to whoever just subscribed. But he does great work over there also too on his YouTube channel, Mr. Bucs Nation. A lot of you already subscribed, but if you haven't yet, go check out his content as well, along with his written work at BucsGameday, along with Caleb River. The guys always crush it on the site. The content doesn't stop, and man, we've got a busy off season ahead for us. That's going to do it. We're out of here. We will talk to you soon on